City, I do agree. One, I think it's a moral and ethical problem that we as human beings have to treat other human beings in a proper manner. Two, I think it's essentially a county problem, and I think several of the city councilors have said that. It's not a problem that can be attacked city by city. And the cities may cooperate and may help, but the county has to approach it as a county, and we have to attack it. And I don't disagree, it is a problem.
Folks, we're running rapidly out of time. I got a couple more questions for you. Mr. Tremont, let's get back to public safety. We talked about how Port Orange is a good community where the emphasis is on good law enforcement, speed, traffic control, and safety. Let's talk about what a lot of people are concerned about with the unions and the law enforcement, police and fire, with the pensions. Some people say they're not sustainable in the long run. I know in Tallahassee for the first time, there's concern about these pensions, not just fire departments anymore. What's your response to that? How would you handle it on the dais?
Well, you can't answer that in 30 seconds, obviously, but I've had multiple conversations. Okay, I've had multiple conversations with our city manager and our finance director. Just met with them for 2.5 hours today. I've met with our fire union, and I've met with our police union rep about a dozen times. And it certainly is a problem, and it's not sustainable as it is. There are a multitude of ideas that could be approached, but it's not an easy fix. If it were easy, it would be solved already. I think one option would be a transfer into the FRS system, Florida Retirement System, which is beneficial to a lot of people in that situation. Now, you can't force them. Now, you can force them. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. There's all sorts of benefits for that. You get the city off that payment, with the exception of the ones that are still in. You don't want to mess it up with people that didn't invest in. Now, I'll tell you one of the reasons that I believe the fire union hasn't endorsed my opponent or myself, and the police hasn't endorsed anybody, because I've had a chance to talk to them. And I have not made promises. Promises are an insult now to voters and even union reps. They don't want to be promised things anymore. Why? Because they've been promised things time and time again, and those promises don't come to fruition. So what they want, what I believe these union representatives want, what these firefighters, what the police union, what the workers want, is fairness. Now, there's nobody that would be able to relate with them better than myself. I'm a school teacher. I know what it feels like to be underappreciated, undervalued, and underpaid. I have a thankless job. So nobody can relate to them better than I. Yet at the same time, I'll tell them, listen, I cannot promise you anything, but what I will promise you is fairness and honesty. And you'll have somebody sitting in that seat that knows exactly what you're going through, so I'm going to fight for you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, your response to your reaction to what he's saying about the unions. Are the pensions sustainable in the long run? And can you change that?
First of all, I want to respond to what you said, I think referring to the FRS, the Florida Retirement System. We talked about Tallahassee. The Florida Retirement System is solvent. It is not in great need. And as a matter of fact, the 3% that the public employees are now paying into the system is going into the general fund, not into the Florida Retirement System. And so when Chase suggested that the local pensions, it is. I can see faces of disconcern out there. But the fact is the money that's being paid by Florida employees, Florida State of Florida employees, is not going into the FRS.
I believe the drop program is what I meant to say, and that's in the red now.
Okay, I'm not talking, you didn't mention the drop program, and I'm not talking about the drop
Right.
program. I'm talking about when the governor asked the state employees to make a contribution. That goes into the general fund. Two, Chase mentioned that one of the solutions might be for the local fire and police pensions to be absorbed into the FRS. I think that's a great idea. I know there's another gentleman sitting in the audience who thinks it's a great idea. The problem is it's not as simple as the pensioners making that decision that it's acceptable. It's actually quite a costly venture for the city to do that. And that's one of the hesitations for doing it. So, and I also believe that we have to solve the pension system, that part of the public service is the promise of a pension for the risk and the salaries that they have. But FRS, I just want to emphasize that it is not an individual decision. It would have to be a decision made by the city of Port Orange, and it would be a costly decision. And it may be one they choose to make because in the long run it's the best way, but it's not something the employees focus on.
We got one last question. Now I'll turn over to you, Mr. Tremont. We had a long-term city manager here who had the community's respect, the media's respect, and that was Ken Parker. And then all of a sudden, like a volcano, this thing about the water scandal came up. And then we had a very short, limited city manager who came and went. And then the thing what I'm trying to get at with that is sometimes people describe people on the dais as rolling over or weak to the city manager. And then there are others that say, well, sometimes people in office are bullies and people in the audience are bullies and have beaten them up and they don't want to stay. Where do you stand on that as a prospective elected candidate, elected office?
We're seeing exactly.
And in terms of the bulliness or the rolling over, how do you balance that?
Right. Well, you know, I mean, nobody wants to work for a bully. Nobody wants to have a negative working environment. But you got to understand, you've got two entities that are fighting to do their jobs. City manager's trying hard to do his job. Council trying hard to do their job. And it should be going in the same direction, but oftentimes it doesn't. You've got 5 other people up there that might disagree with the city manager. You've got 2 or 3 people. That's what happens when you bring a lot of different leaders together under one umbrella. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have bickering. You're going to have chaos in some point. So ultimately, you want to find people that are going to work together, that are not going to be, you know, my opponent talks about rubber stamps for development. You know, we've had councils that are rubber stamp for development. I don't believe that's the case at all. You know, I think I'm not going to give insult our guys that much to say that, because I think if you talk to any developer in Port Orange, and that we have a reputation all around town to be a very tough place to do business here. So when you get into the situation of county manager versus the council, it shouldn't be a versus each other. They ought to be able to work together. No one should be a bully. At the same time, no one should roll over. If you're rolling over, then you're not doing your job. You're not getting the bang for your buck, and you're doing very great disservice to the citizens.
Thank you. Ms. Jones, do you want to respond?
I think basically your question was the change in government when they lost the long-term.
Well, striking the balance after that scandal.
Right. I don't think the scandal was I think what happened was in Port Orange, for a long time you had a city manager, Ken Parker, who was a very strong leader. And then when he retired, whenever a very strong leader leaves, there's a vacuum, there's a period of turmoil, there's a period of change. And a lot of the department heads, I think it was more or less a period of change that they chose to leave. That they had worked under one system for most of their career, and they were able to retire, and they chose to retire. So we're now looking at the city of Port Orange, which is essentially restructuring itself. And it's restructuring itself, I'd like to speak in a way that is different and maybe reflects the times, and there's one thing about it that I don't like. And that is now that as we go out and we look for new department heads, which is understandable, we seem to be getting the young professionals who go from, their allegiance is to their job, not to the city. The older time professionals more or less came up through the ranks. And one thing I would like to see is when we look for new department heads in the future, rather than looking at a young person or a person who comes in and interviews, and they have a history of going from city to city to city, and the city of Port Orange is more or less a stop along the career path, that we seriously look in the departments that we have, in the staff on hand, to see if there is a person in-house who can also take that department head and consider that person, because that person has more of an allegiance to the city than somebody who is just coming.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. We're going to do our closings now. 2 minutes max. Ms. Jones, you go first.
First of all, I want to thank, where's my clock?
No, hold on.
Okay.
Try asking.
Went away. Went away.
Just go ahead. Once
Oh,
it's
okay,
I'll let you know.
I want to thank everybody in the audience that came. I want to thank them for listening to both of us, and I hope it's been an interesting and educational experience for you. I'm very much dedicated to the city of Port Orange. I enjoy the city of Port Orange. My opponent spoke about my funding, and I want to speak to that funding, that when you receive a sum of money from a labor union, which I certainly have, you are receiving the sum of money from individual workers, from men and women who have donated out of their pocket small amounts of money to make the large pool. When you receive a large sum of money, such as $1,000 from 2 trucking firms, you are receiving a sum of money from one gentleman who owns a big business. I really would
10
like...
seconds. 10 seconds.
I would like to close very much and...
Oh, I'm sorry, you got a minute. I apologize. I misread this clock. Go ahead, ma'am. You're fine.
Okay. I would like to emphasize one other thing that I would like, it's one of my issues on my website. I would like to see the city, when they put items up for bid, for services or construction, that they give a preference, not a guarantee, but a preference to local contractors and local providers, so that our tax money stays in the locality and helps the economy. I would also like to see a preference given in bidding when there are large construction jobs to firms that have an apprentice program in place. These firms, they need not be union, but the firms that have these programs in place deserve that preference because they are making a profession in the trades available to men and women. And again, I respectfully ask every one of you to consider me and to vote for me on August 30th or early voting or mail voting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I apologize for interrupting.
That's an apology accepted.
Thank you. Mr. Tremont, you have about 2 minutes. Okay.
Again, I echo my opponent's statements. I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us for tonight. I do want to say, with all due respect, though, in regard to the comment about unions supporting you, being that they're from individuals, you received a $250 contribution from the teachers union. I paid into the union all last year. So I assure you, I did not contribute to your campaign. These are decisions that are made by the people at the front end. They're not the average workers that are making that decision. So just wanted to state that very clearly. My race is simply, as I mentioned before, public safety is priority number 1. If people aren't safe, it doesn't matter what priority number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 is. And again, that entails a lot of different things. But ultimately, I'm the guy that you want representing you, and here's why. I know what it's like, and I take my political principles into this public office. I have no interest in raising taxes. I know how to live within my means. I'm a school teacher. I have 4 children. We are paycheck to paycheck. I know what it feels like to watch that needle rise every time I fill up my gas tank. I know what it feels like, what it does to the gut of my stomach when I look at my receipt at the end of buying groceries. I know what it feels like to count the pennies in my little jar at the end of the month and see how much I have left to hopefully take my kids out for ice cream. There's nobody that can relate to the average citizen like I. My opponent has talked many times about the little guy getting a break. I am the little guy. I'm the guy that here is trying to represent all the others that are just like myself. I want to keep Port Orange beautiful. I want to keep it safe. And I want to keep it very affordable to live here. So I'm Chase Tremont. I appreciate your vote, and I appreciate your support.
10 seconds.
Mr. Tremont made the comment about the teachers union. I think it says something when the teachers union does not support a teacher and comes and supports. You're the one that, right. It says when the teachers union chose to support me, and they chose to support me because I have supported the teachers, I have walked with the teachers, I have spoke for the teachers in all of their needs.
All right, thank you. Very briefly, please.
Well, I didn't expect a rebuttal after my closing, but I'm happy to. I am a teacher, okay? And I was a member of the union. And the fact of the matter is, I had to drop out of the union, and I wrote a letter to the union saying, I cannot afford the dues anymore. You know why? Because it's half of what it costs for formula every month. That's why I'm not a member of the union anymore. So it's unfortunate that the unions have decided to play politics in this. See, we didn't bring in the MPA, the political realm. The unions did in this case. So that's what happened here. It might have worked for the teachers. I am a teacher. And they never vetted me.
Is everybody guys here satisfied with this? They ended?
There's no sense digging in the mud anymore.
I want to thank, on behalf of Headline Surface Public, I want to thank you, Mr. Tremont, and I want to thank you, Ms. Jones, for taking the time and, for expressing yourselves. And I apologize for a few mistakes here and there, and I thought it was very well for 2 newcomers to elective office. Good luck to both of you, and God bless you. Thank you.